Our individual psychological context influences how we subjectively interpret the world, often leading to biased perceptions. Self-serving bias and the fundamental attribution error are two biases that contribute to naive realism. Naive realism can lead to making less favorable attributions about others' decisions that differ from our own.
The Reuben vase is a commonly used example of our tendency to see patterns in order to make sense of the world around us, which is a cornerstone of Gestalt psychology. A more recent example of such an illusion concerned the color of a dress. Irrespective of who was right and who was wrong, two phenomena were fully on display. People's perception of the world around them is highly subjective, but they tend to behave as if those subjective perceptions are objectively correct. These two elements compose naive realism. Humans interpret the world in a way that makes sense to them, and individual differences influence our interpretations of the world. Our interpretations are highly subjective and form the cornerstone of the psychological context in which we make decisions and act on them. Not everybody will reach the same conclusions about a comedian's humor or the value of the latest iPhone. The psychological context people bring with them influences the resulting conclusions they reach. Biases influence the psychological context within which we make decisions, and they serve as a de facto default response. The stronger the bias, the more evidence or situational pressure we would need to override that default. Biases help us make decisions in accordance with our values and motivations, and a self-serving bias occurs when we interpret the world in a way that is beneficial to our sense of self. Our attributions tend to be less benign when it comes to others, and the fundamental attribution error manifests when we attribute another person's behavior to internal characteristics of that person, especially regarding attributions about bad behavior. Naive realism is the tendency to believe that we are rational, and our decisions are objectively correct, and it leaves us with very few options for the attributions we make about others' decisions. Because we tend to default to simpler, more personality-related reasons for others' decisions, there is an increased likelihood that we will attribute perceived differences to deficiencies in others' competency.